Good evening, everyone. And I have got the lovely Verena tonight as my lovely people guest. And I was blessed enough to meet this beautiful lady when we were having an absolute ball of a time in Spain. And then when everyone else had gone home, we got to hang out together. And it was really nice to kind of have that time and get to talk to you and meet you and hang out with you guys. It was really, really lovely. So we are absolutely delighted to have you here with us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, really.
So I would really, really like you to share a little bit about you, about who you are, and about how you came across this understanding that we're all here together sharing. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about you, that would be really great.
Sure. Well, really, thank you so much, Debra, for inviting me. Yeah, now I'm a lovely people too.
Yes, you'll officially be a lovely people, but you know, you've got to be good.
Yeah, so my name is Verena and I'm living in the south of Germany. And yeah, well, I came across this understanding quite a few years ago, I think 2009 or something, 2010, when I received like this weekly newsletter by Michael Neal. I guess most of you know Michael Neal. And yeah, I was intrigued. Like I followed him for quite a few years already, and he was on this NLP stuff kind of
Yeah.
And then I could feel something was changing in his newsletter. I wasn't quite sure what it was, and then he started talking about these 3 principles, and I thought, ooh, that sounds really interesting, because at the time I was in a natural horsemanship program. So I'm really passionate about horses, and so I learned about how to be with horses on a relationship basis. And we had these 3 principles that were the foundation for our communication with the horses. And I thought, wow, okay, so maybe this is a sign, 3 principles. And well, these principles were different, but nonetheless, I thought, wow, interesting. And then still, it was interesting because in this newsletter up to then, there was always something to do. Michael always had these fantastic exercises and reflections and whatever. And all of a sudden there was nothing to do anymore. And, I was like, well, so it all sounds interesting, but what can I do about that? And so I don't know, it went on for a few years that I was reading the newsletter and thought, yeah, interesting, but well, I have my normal life, and yeah. And then actually it was in, I think, 2013. I went to a monastery for a few days, so just to, I don't know, get a bit clearer what I want in life and what I'm up to, why I'm here. And the interesting thing was I'm not a religious person at all, and still I went to this monastery.
Wow.
And there I met a monk, and I thought, well, since I'm here, I can make the most of it and just ask him all these questions, like, why are we here? What is life about? And who is God? All these easy questions. And until then, I was used to all these church people being, they kind of had this book, the Bible, and would recite from the Bible, all these very interesting texts that I don't understand. And he was different. Like, I asked him these questions, and the first thing he did was he closed his eyes and he leaned back And I could feel that he, you know, he was really looking inside and looking for the answer, the right answer in this moment, not just anything, but what was present now. And I could feel this connection, and I was really moved by that because, you know, I didn't expect it at all from someone who was, you know, from the Catholic Church. And I was like, you know, very skeptic about it. And he was just incredible. And I was really moved to tears, like when we were talking, or not even talking. Like I was listening, and I just I was so full. I didn't know what else to ask. I was just full. And that was kind of for me the starting point that I could see something different in these three principles when I read Michael's newsletter. And then I read more and I watched videos, and yeah, I just got so fascinated by it all. And yeah, now I'm here sitting across the screen from you after we met at the beautiful Viva event. And you know, it's now the principles are a very important part of my life. I mean, of everyone's life, of course, because we are the principles, you know, but as in sharing the principles. So yeah.
So, what difference has this understanding made? You said this is a very important part of your life, and I totally get that. Yeah. And like you say, we're all always the principals anyway. We just don't always know that. But what difference has it made for you?
For me, life just feels so much more alive. And it is, I don't know, somehow it's easier to understand people now, you know, because I can see how I am working, how we are working, as in how our experience as a human being comes about. And especially in difficult situations, you know, like when someone who is very close to me is angry with me, or I am upset, then it helps me to um, yeah, to be more grounded and to see different options. And even when I'm caught up and, you know, absolutely in it and don't see any other options but just being angry or depressed or whatever, then it's not as severe anymore, because I can see it is changing from moment to moment anyway, and I don't have to do anything about it.
So who do you, you said that you shared these principles, that's a big part of who do you share this understanding with, you know, in your daily life? What do you?
With anyone who's around me. And often I'm not, you know, when I say share it, then it's not necessarily that I'm talking about it, but it's more maybe implicitly, you know, it's to know about the principles, how Sid Banks is talking about them. It just helps me to see things more clearly, and also like in how can I say that, implicitly, you know, like for example with my parents, like with my mom, she's not very much interested in this kind of looking at life, and we quite often had our fights, you know, and now I can see her, her how can I say, I can see how her experience comes about, and for me, this is also sharing the principles when I am not getting drawn into this usual experience, like pressing my button and bling, then there is our usual fight. No, it's not as bad anymore. And so this helps me to, yeah, to be more objectively, maybe. Like I call it, I have my second channel now, where I am, my first channel is totally in the experience, and then I have my second channel that is a bit zoomed out and sees what is happening with me and with my environment. And yeah,
like you can take a step back and see it from a different viewpoint. That is really, really useful, isn't it, to be able to do that? That's brilliant.
I think so.
So very often we have people on these calls and people who watch them afterwards who are quite new to this understanding, and I often send people to my Lovely People webinars to kind of get a feel for this understanding. So for anyone who is a little bit unsure about what it is, we kind of say principles, and we've said this understanding, and there might be somebody there, what are you talking about? So in the best way that you can, and whatever you're seeing, a little bit like the monk you met in this moment now, how would you share what it is we're talking about?
Well, for me, these 3 principles are like the building blocks of life. Like, I mean, they are life itself. First of all, it's this aliveness. It's this thing that makes the difference between, let's say, a dead body and an alive human. This thing that we can't touch, and that we can touch as well, because it's in everything. So this is like when I talk explicitly about the principles, this would be what the principle I would call mind, or Big Banks calls mind. This is, for me, it's life itself. And then we have these again, what Michael Neal, I find it so interesting how he calls it the Play-Doh of life. Our thoughts, that create everything. Like now that I'm sitting here in front of this screen and I see all your lovely faces on the screen, this is like thought flowing through me, doing that, and then giving me, there's this third principle, consciousness, that brings it to life. So I have now this experience of sitting here talking to you and feeling excited, being able to share it this way. I'm sitting here in Germany and you are all over the world, and we are connected here, and having this experience, that is the interplay of all these 3 principles together, which we cannot really, we cannot really pull it apart and say, now this is principle 1, like principle of mind, and this is principle of consciousness, and this is principle of thought. Like it's all together. We can, it's one thing that we can look at from different angles, kind of thing, to make some kind of sense of it. And put form to it. Like now when I'm talking about it, then I'm putting form to something that ultimately has no form. And at the same time, it has all forms, because now I'm sitting here again and looking at you, and we are having this experience.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's really lovely. So how would you say that helps people in their moment-to-moment experience? If their kids are playing up, or they're feeling anxious, or life's not going the way they want it to go, how would you say that understanding these principles, seeing the form and the formless nature of life. How does that, what difference does that make, and how does that help?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, it helps me to see more options. Like, what comes to mind is a really silly example, but I'm going to share it anyway.
Cool.
So, I have a horse, and with with my horse Rhonda, her name is Rhonda. I need to clean out her hooves regularly, and this is something that has been quite quite an issue in our relationship, because she has some troubles with her in her body, so it's not so easy for her to um, to stand up, and like she's a bit wobbly, and so she doesn't really want to give me her hoof, but nonetheless, I mean, we need to get it done. So there was really for ages we had this problem, and usually it depended on my mood and state of mind at the time. Sometimes I was really getting angry quite easily, and sometimes I was just relaxed, and then maybe we didn't do it, which was not a good option anyway. But what I realized now, through these principles, I could see it more from her point of view as well, to see that she didn't want to upset me. That's just not what horses do. And she was just doing the best she could think of in that moment, and it's when I saw that, it wasn't because of me. And anyway, even if it was, then, well, it's my experience. So I don't have, like, even if somebody wants to upset me, well, it's their problem. It's not my problem. But anyway, in this case, she didn't want to upset me. And all of a sudden, I had all these different options. I just saw how I could approach it differently. And it's really magical, since then, it's like a game now. And it's actually really fun. And I'm like, okay, now if you don't want to give me your hoof, then I get to find a different way to approach it, and to get more creative and see how can I help her to find it fun as well, to make it more interesting for both of us, not just this dreaded thing that we need to do, but to make it a fun thing. And that's what I could see that has changed. And for me, I mean, it's really a silly story, but it is really a biggie. It's really a biggie for me.
Do you know what? That is one of the things that for me is the most magical thing about this understanding. The places where I've seen things have changed for me are those personal things that meant something and mean something to me. Like you say, your relationship with your horse is an important relationship to you. And okay, it might sound like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal, but I don't know how many times, I'm guessing, I haven't got a horse, but I'm guessing you probably see your horse most days and takes up quite a big amount of your time. This is a big thing that you do. So actually, that relationship, that small change that makes it lighter and more easy for both you and her is actually huge.
Absolutely. Because I can see, like, she is how can I say, responding so differently to me now. And again, also, since you were asking where I could see that the three principles are making a difference in my life, again, with the horses, like Rhonda, she was, for years, she was really withdrawn, and she wasn't really here. She didn't really want to be here. And when you try to make someone wanting to be here, it's not really possible. If someone doesn't want to be here, well, you cannot make them want to be here. And now with me looking at her differently, like with this silly story that I just shared, things like that. Now she is looking like she wants to come to me. She is interested, where before she was just standing there and looking really sad. And even people who don't know about horses, they were asking me, oh, why is she always so sad? And she's standing there just by herself. What's happening? And I can see how this has changed, and since, as you said, she is very important to me, and I am spending also quite a lot of time with her. I mean, she's just really important to me, and to see this change in her, something that I didn't do it. It's something that happened. That is just wow. That yeah.
Yeah. That to me is the magic of this understanding.
Absolutely.
Because they sound like very, very small things, but actually it's huge to be able to see something that's a place where we've maybe been stuck, or something that we just haven't seen. It just looks as if that's the way it is, and there's nothing we can do, and we can't see that tiny little bit of light when that comes in, and we see something from a totally different perspective. And I think when we change in that way, the people or our animals or whoever, the things that are important to us, I don't know whether they do change or whether it's that we change and we see them down. I don't really care which way it is. The whole thing just kind of, yeah. And it doesn't really matter whether it's your horse that you love, or your partner, or whether it's your children, or whether it's people you work with, or whatever it is. It makes life a much easier experience. And they are literally the tiniest little shifts sometimes, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I love what you just said, Debra, about these things where we think we cannot do anything about it, and we just don't see any way how we could change a situation that feels difficult, or where we just don't see any option. And then all of a sudden, yeah, something does change, wherever that comes from. And to know that is another thing that helps me now, since I'm around the principles, to really see there is always another option. We might not see it, and where it comes from, when something changes, life is always changing.
Yep.
And where it comes from, I don't know, but this is the only constant, the change,
Yeah, that's great when you see that, isn't it? The only thing you can rely on and know is constant is change. And we are, as human beings, we do spend a lot of time trying to keep things the way that they are, the way we think. We try to get them the way we like them, and then kind of think, right, let's keep them like that now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So shall we see if anyone has any questions or any comments, or would like to, if anyone has got anything they would like to say, be a part of this conversation, please do join in. That's, it's great to make this a discussion. So if you do, you can unmute yourself, or if you've got a picture on the screen, if you wave your hands around, I can unmute you. But it would really be great to see if anyone has got any questions or comments or anything that they would like to share. And I'll have a drink of water.
Me too.
I love it when everybody is nice and quiet and everybody's minds look calm and nobody looks as if they've got this. So would you like to share a little bit more about things that you've seen around this understanding? And, you know, if anybody would like to join in or jump in, please, you know, feel free to do so.
Do you have anything specific in mind you would like me to talk about?
Ooh. Anything specific? No, I don't mind any other examples of places that have changed in your life, maybe? Any examples of where you've seen something different?
Well, maybe I could also talk about, you know, what I'm doing for a living, so to speak. And
yeah, no, that'd be great. That'd be brilliant.
How I can see it, changing there, or how I see maybe things differently there. So I'm working together with Thomas, who's also on the call with my partner in his business, and what we are doing there is also very important to me. So we are educating people around the money system, and the money system in itself, you know, I mean, money is such a big topic. Let's say we make it such a big topic because it's nothing. It's not natural. As in, you know, horses, they don't need money, or trees, they don't need money. They just live anyways. And still, we make it up to this great big thing that everything evolves around. And what I also saw more and more is how really everything in our lives is connected to money. And even, you know, when we are brought up as kids already, we get into kindergarten and school and everything, we are conditioned, we are trained for a life around money. You know, we get this we kind of inhale this structure of a work life. You know, we have Monday through Friday normally, and we have certain hours through the day that we have to, I don't know, have to be available. Then we learn things at school that somebody tells us is correct, you know, because it's written somewhere. And so we kind of learn to trust in other people, as in trust them more than ourselves. So we trust the outside more, the experts, like the financial experts, the doctors who know better about our health because they studied it, you know.
Yeah.
All these scientists, they all know, and well, we have to believe them because they learned it, you know. And I see now more and more how we are so conditioned to believe more in other people than ourselves that it's very hard for us to hear this little voice inside that tells us, that navigates us through life, you know. Again, where we are responsive to life in the moment, so to speak, you know, like this navigating system. And I was wondering for myself, why do I find it so often so difficult to know what to do? And when I look back now, I can see how this really was kind of trained out of me, this to listen to this inner voice. And so this is really a big thing for me to as well, to show people what is happening there, and that when we make money such a big issue, which is easily done because it's what we have learned, then there's not a lot of space for, how can I say, creative ideas, because there's so much I want to share about that. It's not so easy to follow one thread. Like, if money is this big issue in our lives, then we often are occupied with thinking about, okay, how can I make money? And there's not a lot of space for, what do I actually want to do? You know, what is calling me? Because this voice inside of us is so subtle, and it's getting more and more difficult through the years, you know, to hear it. As kids, it was much easier, but now, since we got educated and got all this stuff, our heads got filled up with all this useful or not so useful stuff that other people tell us is correct, then it's getting more and more difficult to hear this voice. And so this is something that I want to share more, to show people what's going on, and also to help them to be able to see through what is going on, you know, and being able to listen to this voice, to see what is it actually what I want to do. Yeah. I don't know if that was clear.
No, that was lovely. I think we've got somebody here who wants to ask. Shane, did you want to say something?
Hi. Yes, please.
Hi, Shane.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello. Yep.
Yeah, everybody. Basically, going back to that point, what I've cottoned on to, and I'm not saying all governments, but what people need to realise, they like the people that run us like to keep the population. I don't mean it in a horrible way. They like to keep us fairly stupid, right? They want us to be led like little sheep. That's why you have programs like EastEnders, Chronic. Honest to God, I don't watch any soaps, but you'd be surprised what population of the country come home and watch, which in my opinion is total shit. That little that little mundane way of life, because they like to keep us down there. Because a lot of people that are standing up, I'm not going into detail, that think, hang on a minute, and it's all to do with money at the end of the day. The world would change overnight, but they want to keep us suppressed. Because if you notice, there's certain people, if you try to stand up and speak your mind and be open about what's really going on in the world, you get stamped on fairly quick. So unfortunately, unless a lot of people change, I know this is probably irrelevant to what we're on about, but in some ways it isn't. Do you understand what I mean, though? So where your little voice is telling you something, if everybody had that little voice telling them, you know, to steer off the normal crap of life, what we're kind of funneled into, it'd be a different place. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to be a sheep anymore, you know? But unfortunately, a lot of people are. And that's why when it comes, right, I know I've got the tenant, but like the BBC News, it's crap. They are so biased. And honest to God, we're being brainwashed. We are being brainwashed. That's why we should be on the internet doing shit like this and educate people, you know?
There you go then,
right, right, that's my bit. All right, thank you. I'll be quiet now. You can mute me.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Really, absolutely spot on. That's exactly how I see it as well. And I haven't had a television for, I don't know, 15 years or something. And, you know, I can feel the difference. Like when I had a television, then I don't know, my mind was occupied, you know, I wanted to watch certain things, and they were at these set times. And now when I get somewhere where TV is running, it's just a different feel to it. Like I can feel immediately how something tries to creep in here and make something funny with my brain. It's interesting, really.
Mm. I think the whole money thing is a huge thing for so many people, and I think, like, you know, pointing people in this direction and learning to listen to our inner voice, even around money. I think that's the whole thing we kind of have. It's almost like that's the fourth principle. Yeah, I can see this around love, and I can see it around, you know, even if we're not living in that way, we can kind of see how it works with relationships and love and our kids, and then we kind of go, but money, wait a minute, hang on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and really, it's the same for me still. I'm just glad that I can see now more and more how it's affecting me and how it's working. It doesn't mean that I'm immune to it, not at all. I'm absolutely in there, but I can see more and more how it's working.
Mm. Yeah, it's great, isn't it, to kind of see that the system that we are born into, there isn't anything outside of the principles. There is nothing outside of this.
Yeah.
And the more we kind of see that, the more we deeply see the truth of who we are. And this lovely little voice, that your inner voice that you're talking about, that is always guiding us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you share this with people around money then, do you? Is that what you and Thomas do together? You share about?
As well. Yeah, exactly. So we are doing it on different levels. So we show people actual facts, not so well-known facts about the money system, which is also important to be able to make good decisions that are in line with your own style, lifestyle, your own style around just your own life, you know. And but then this sharing about the principles as well, to be able to have this clear head, to see these different options, you know, that is such a big and important part, because money is a very emotional subject to most people, you know. And then we can't see clearly anymore, and it's like zoop, and we are in this world where we need to do certain things to make money, and there is no other option, which isn't true.
When you were saying that, what was coming back to me was when you were talking about your horse, and kind of saying that when you first, you know, were trying to deal with her with this problem with her hoof, it could sometimes feel very, very, very personal. And it's kind of like we have these things. Our money can sometimes feel very, very, very personal.
Yeah, like oxygen, you know, like it's the same, like it feels like it's the same as oxygen. Like when we run out of oxygen, then pretty quickly we will die. And if we run out of money, then pretty quickly we will die. That's somehow how it feels. But it's not true. It's really not true. Like, you know, I traveled for quite a while, and I didn't have a lot of money. And I didn't need a lot of money, because I was working for people, and I was just working for how do you call it, for accommodation and food, and there
Yeah.
was no money exchanged. And still, I could help them, and they helped me. And you know, I'm still sitting here talking to you now.
Yeah, you look like you've got a roof over your head, and you didn't look like you were starving when we met in Spain.
No, exactly.
And I think in a way it's that thing, isn't it, when we begin to see life, full stop, whatever that is, life, just a little bit less personally.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps big time, definitely. Again, to get new ideas Like when I take something personally, then I don't know, I'm all in the story about this thing. And usually there are the same habitual thoughts coming to mind again and again and again in different versions, but not so clever new thoughts. But when I can see that it isn't personal, that it is a story that I'm making up in my head, then I I have so many more options. So I don't know, just new ideas coming out of the blue.
Mm. And it's good to see that that is true across the board. It doesn't matter whether our problems are with our horse, with our finances, with our living situation, with it doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly.
Oh, I think Terry would like to ask a question. Hi, Terry. Oh, I think we pressed the button at exactly the same time.
Hello.
Hi, Terry.
I love, I mean, I know this whole conversation around money is always so curious because it's such a seeming hot topic. And most of us are raised thinking it's about the money, right? It's about getting the money. That is going to make the difference in life. That is going to make us whole and complete and, you know, whatever we think it's going to make us. And what I've noticed in my own life, so I've been around the principles now for a little over a year and a half, and I haven't made a whole lot of money in the last couple of years. And when I start to think about how I'm going to make money, everything shuts down. Like there's no sense of, okay, this is the steps to this and that and whatever. But when I let the whole thing go and move into what feels inspiring to me and what feels like fun or what feels like something I want to share, I have a sense that all this money stuff kind of takes care of itself. Like I just got to know that's true because there's nothing I can do. It doesn't feel like it's up to me how that's going to happen. It's like if I'm going to put out a program or something to help artists or whatever, that's going to present itself to me in the perfect time and space. And I can't force that. I can be curious about it. So yeah, I'm in that place where I'm kind of going, well, isn't it curious to see whenever I'm trying to come up with ideas around making money, that doesn't work at all. I mean, it's like I don't even get there's nothing creative going on there. It feels like it's just like, but I have a sense that as you move forward with just expressing and caring and enjoying and helping and whatever it is that you're up to in life, those things become more apparent naturally. I'm assuming they work that way, since they're not working the other way. Trying to force it into a mold. I mean, I know how to make money, but that's not how I want to make money, you know? I would like to see how it would come in other directions that open to me in the process of expressing who I am and what I'm here to do or whatever. That changes all the time, and every minute is a mystery, and we never know what's going to come out of our mouths. But so, I mean, I don't know if you have anything to say about that, or even if there's a question in there. I find my thinking wants to say, I'm trusting the money will come at some point, but that isn't even part of the equation to me. It's like, I just know that there's not a problem. I'm okay no matter what's going on, and I don't have to give it a lot of thought. So, and we'll see what happens, right? Whether nothing happens or something happens, it's still okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like what came to mind when you were talking, Terry, was that there is something like I have this goal to make X amount of money with, for example, an online course, and it has to be at this time, you know, let's say in a month from now or 2 months from now, but maybe it's not how it's supposed to be happening, you know. And when I'm making up this deadline and this exact goal, just as you said, it's like it shuts down my creativity. Then it is all about this personal goal, and it's not about what actually really wants to come through me. And I mean, it's all made up, you know. Why would I need this amount of money at that date? Usually I don't have to. And when I think I have to, maybe it would be there would be another way, like even a creative way, that I don't have to have this amount of money at that date. You know, maybe I can put my creativity in there as well. But you know, I can so relate to what you were saying about the creativity shutting down. I, absolutely. When I make it personal, and this, when I'm fixated on this idea of something, of this amount of money at that date, you know, it's not fun.
There's no lack. I mean, I'm sitting here in all this abundance. It's not like I'm starving to death and I'm on the corner somewhere. And I mean, I can't even tell you whether or not that would be a suffering position. I mean, because I'm not experiencing it right now, but in the now we have everything we need. And then we make up this idea that we're spreading it out over time, that we have to line these things up to make sure everything works out okay. And I realized that things work out okay despite how much I try to think about it. I mean, things are okay. There's no working out. It's like I'm already there. And I learn more and more, and I share what comes to me, and it's really cool. I'm glad I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to plan it. I'm glad I don't have to get in there and get my goals together and my New Year's resolution and all this stuff.
What I'm hearing in what you're saying as well, what I'm seeing is how nothing is any different, because we can't, you know, you were talking about, imagine I had this, I need to make this amount of money in this amount of time. It doesn't look to me like when I get into my head around parenting, it looks like my children, they're grown up, but even now it looks like they need to be behaving in a certain way, or do a certain thing by a certain date. So I need to do certain things so that happens. And it's just like, it's all the same. Money isn't outside of that. Nothing is outside of that. It's like when I get in my head and believing that things need to be the way I believe they need to be, then my creativity, you know, like you say, we're kind of on this narrow bandwidth, aren't we? And when we're kind of like, hey, I'd like to be a great parent. And not even that, you know, the amount that we actually need to put in is so small. And we just kind of point ourselves in that direction and then just see what unfolds. And it just looks like life unfolds.
I have one other thing to say to that. It just occurred to me when you were talking, Debra. I had a thought that if I think too much about my goals around money or anything, that I'm shutting down creativity. That's not true. It's impossible to shut off creativity because it's happening all the time. And so it was amazing to just have that insight of, oh, that was like a habitual thought I have about, I'm still in charge. I have to focus a certain direction or not focus a certain direction for my creativity to be with me. How absurd is that? And creativity is a constant. And it's going on even when we're looking at that little thing over here, it's still happening everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
And also something that came up while you were talking, Debra, that is also connected to what Terry just said. When I try to be more open, you know, when I see that I'm kind of shutting down, which, I mean, I'm still, as Terry said, I am still connected to creativity. I am creativity itself. And when I try to make that all this stuff that I don't want, make it go away, when I don't want to look at my, for example, maybe you, I don't want to look at my children this way. I want to look at them in a different way. And, you know, it's not really helpful. It's going, for me, it's going to be completely different direction than I want it to be. And so what I find so helpful is to see, yes, that's another thing that can just change, you know, how I see my children, or how I see my creativity, or how I see my work life, or my thinking around money. It can change, and it will change. And when I try to make it change, then this is what keeps it more and longer in place. And so really just to see, again, change is the constant here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to know that, isn't it? Because we are in the ebb and flow of life, and we're always okay in that ebb and flow. It's a safe place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So has anyone else got any questions or anything that they would like to bring to this conversation this evening? I love watching where the conversation goes. It's really interesting, isn't it? Oh, we have Shane again. Hi, Shane.
Hello, I would just like to add, because I don't want you thinking that I'm like, I've got a telly on. When I meant, you know, I like watching telly. David Attenborough, right, what we're going to do, we're going to hire a plane, we're going to go to Antarctica, and we're going to save more king penguin chicks, all right? We're going to go into the ravine, and we're going to dig them out, yeah? If you didn't watch it, you won't have a clue what the hell I'm on about, but we're going to do that, yeah? And I want Robin's hot water bottle because my hands are bloody cold. The house is warm, but my hands are really cold, so... Right, that's it. That's all I got to say on that one.
It's fine, Shane. You're
you.
very welcome to watch your telly if that's what you want to do. That looks good to me. This is very much about following our own wisdom, isn't it? It's not about anyone else's wisdom. It's not, hey, I haven't got a telly, so nobody else should have a telly, or hey, I have got a telly, so everybody should. This is, you've got, I have watched you grow and change, Shane, and you have an amazing amount of beautiful wisdom that you are hearing more and more and following more and more. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. And I haven't had any slips this week. Well, maybe a little one. Maybe like the little chicks down the slope. But the camera crew weren't able to dig me out. But yeah, but I'm getting there.
You're amazing. Thank you.
You're laughing too.
So is there anything else that's occurring to you to share with us tonight, Verena?
Just how much I like to be in this conversation, you know, with you, with like-minded people. I just find it really inspiring and interesting, you know, like where the whole conversation went. I had no clue. I didn't have a plan. But always lovely, you know, when people get together and everybody's bringing something to the table, and then what evolves from there. It's just, I just find it fascinating. So thank you for inviting me and for letting me be part of this lovely group.
It's been lovely. It's been really, really lovely speaking to you. You are officially a lovely person.
Beautiful.
been really, really lovely. I just love each week we have a very different conversation because we are all so different. We're all exactly the same on one level, and then we all, you know, what we create with what it is we're given is so different. And I just think it's just beautiful where these conversations go. And yeah, it's been a delight and a pleasure, and it's really, really lovely to see you and Thomas, and I want to be back in Spain with you next door to us.
True. Yeah, with lovely nice weather, maybe a bit warm. Absolutely.
So I can't remember, Beck, I was supposed to ask you before we started on here. I've slipped up. Who have we got next week as our lovely person on the webinar?
So next week we've got Marie Aramar, and we are doing something ever so slightly different next week. We will be starting at 7:30, just because of Marie's timings. We haven't actually met Marie, but hopefully we'll meet her tomorrow at the event that we're going to. So she'll be out.
If she's not a lovely person when we meet her tomorrow.
Yeah, if we meet her, go somewhere else, we'll change plans. I'm sure she will.
Nag Thomas instead.
She comes highly recommended. Bye, Terry.
Bye, Terry.
Yeah, and then just because the topic came up so unexpectedly this evening, we've actually got in the new year a whole webinar series we're going to do around money. So since that seemed to be our hot topic, I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Money,
so
money,
if people
money.
are interested, they can ask us about that.
Yeah,
that's next week.
Yeah, maybe you could be a guest and come and talk on our money.
Yeah, I did think maybe we should invite our money experts to be guest speakers on that.
That would be really good. Yeah.
Shane wants to go again.
Go on, Shane.
Just to confirm that I'm getting my local top-up of injection of 2 weeks' time. Is that right?
6th of December, Shane.
6th of December, right? Yeah, and I should have worded that better because that sounded so wrong. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I knew exactly what you meant. And
right, okay.
so our next local meetup is the 6th of December.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Andrea. It's lovely to see you. Yes, Shane comes to our meetup that we have near to us here. It's, you know, if anyone, however far away you are, if you want to come, it's in Barnstable at Roundswell, and the next one is the 6th of December. So, you know, if you want to travel over from Germany, we can find you a bed, and you are most welcome to come. We would never turn anyone away. We love people coming to our meetups.
Whoa. When you say we'd never turn anyone away, let's be a little bit careful, Deb.
Yeah, we don't take Germans.
Only if you bring stolen cake with you, then you can. Is that the stuff? Yeah.
Stolen cake?
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean. That's
stolen. No, not the stop. I didn't.
Not like stolen from the shop.
Yeah, not shoplifting.
Not stolen.
I know what he means. It's posh shit, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just gone really quickly downhill, hasn't it?
Because you put the microphone and you let me get on the microphone.
This was supposed to be a serious webinar, guys. Remember, we were supposed to look very professional and very serious. You know,
Can you
we haven't
edit the end of the webinar, Deb? Can you chop the end of the webinar off when you put it on YouTube?
This will be the best bit. This will be the most watched portion.
Like our Facebook Live the other day. It was still chatting and it was still bloody live.
It was still live. That was hilarious.
That was funny.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you so much for tonight, Verena. It's been really lovely to hear you.
Oh, yeah.
And to see you guys again.
Thanks, German.
Thank you.
It was really, really lovely. Thank you. And thank you for your lovely words. It was a delight. It was absolutely lovely. Great.
And Thomas,
guys.
did you buy my book?
If anyone would like to join in this madness again next week, we would absolutely love to have you with us. To meet we're meeting this lovely person next week. So we do this webinar every week, pretty much from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, apart from next week, but it's going to be 7:30 till 8:30. So if ever you're around on a Wednesday evening and fancy dropping in, it would be great to see you. But thank you all very, very much for this evening. It was really lovely to chat to you, Verena. Thank you. It's lovely. And good luck with your lovely horse and her little feet. Oh, no! Oh, oh, is
God,
that
we-
her? She's
Yeah.
here.
That's
You want to stop recording so we can all say goodbye to each other?
I will indeed.